What is going on, everyone? This is Sheets, and sorry for the late notice as far as the live stream goes, but I wasn't exactly sure when I was going to be able to do it. I do presume this all gets recorded for posterity and all of that as well. So again, for UFC, what I like to do is try to do 3 videos. One, most important being this one, where I go through the fights and go through who I think are the best DFS plays. I'd like to do a second video where I do a betting breakdown. And I also like to do a third video where I completely focus on lineup construction tricks and using the Sims and using the Pater portfolio manager to minimize dupes and that type of thing, specifically for the throwdown. But at the very least, I do want to take care of the DFS, just the slate breakdown. If I do get those other videos done, I will let you guys know. But the problem is I'm actually leaving for a lot of the day tomorrow. So if I can get them done tonight, I will, but at the very least, we're going to take care of this. Okay. So first things first, with weigh-ins pending, it is a full 13-fight card, which is nice. So what that means is that this is the way you look at these types of cards from a GPP perspective. When it's 13 fights, it's usually a card where you don't have to engage in too much funny business, meaning you could play the best plays for the most part and be in contention to win these big GPPs, provided that there's not, number one, an incredibly chalky main event, which is tough to fade. And I guess likewise, if there's, as long as there's not a real chalky spot throughout the card, that's tough to fade. Usually that being a replacement fighter situation, where one fighter was just mispriced because of a replacement fighter situation. Whenever you have a situation like that, 13 fights is not enough to avoid doing funny business. And when there's a main event, which is tough to fade, then it's, again, a tough card to get through without engaging in funny business. So I guess let's first analyze this from the perspective of the main event. And I mean, right off the bat, I mean, this is a fight that's going to be very difficult to fade. I mean, you have a 5-round fight between two dudes who are not afraid to throw down, and it's going to be difficult to keep the winner off of the optimal. I will say that of these two guys, Holloway is more likely to bust in a win than Oliveira, simply because of not simply because of price, but because of price. You know, Oliveira, he just wins all his fights by finish. You know, and there are variations where he just basically runs through Holloway here and scores like 100 points. And at 7,400, it's going to be difficult to keep that off the optimal. Where Holloway at 8,800, he's a pure striker, and I know that he's got a lot of finishing upside, and Oliveira is hittable, and Holloway can also put up a lot of volume here, but when you are just a pure striker, it's just a little more difficult for you to get there. And if he wins with a score of say 100, that's not guaranteed to be enough. So feel as though that this is not a fight that's 100% unfadeable, which means that unless there is some other replacement fighter situation, which I don't think there is, I think that you can get away with this card without, doing funny business. And by funny business, I mean intentionally leaving money on the table, doing 1-for-1 swaps just to save money, things like that. In addition, there's a ton of upside on this card, and there's a lot of ways that you can go. I mean, there are, I think at quick count, at least 6 fighters who are favored to finish inside the distance, which is extraordinarily rare. And the ownership between all 6 of those is going to be significantly different. Okay. And, I do think is a good fight card to use a simulator to build lineups, because if you don't, you'll run the risk of becoming too biased about results. In other words, like if you might decide that, okay, this guy's minus 160 to finish, and then your brain will say that means he's going to finish. as opposed to another guy who's maybe a little less likely, who's maybe minus 120 to finish, who's going to be half the ownership. And you might say, well, I'm just not going to play that one. So it's important to understand the way the math of these DFS contests works. It's never about what's going to happen, because you don't know what's going to happen. It's what happens most likely, and how much more likely than something else, which is going to afford you more leverage. So very, very difficult, this whole DFS game. All right. So you're going to see when we go through these that a lot of these fights can be characterized in mid-range fights you have to figure out, and good favorites you have to figure out. And we're just going to get right into it. So right off the bat, you have this Luke Fernandez versus Bellato, and this is, I think, fight number one, where the winner or the favorite is better than minus 110 to finish. And you look at this, it says Fernandez inside the distance is minus 125, and that's very, very strong. It's really, really good. And inside even the first round here, plus 200, so 33% of the time he's going to win in the first round, and winning the first round gets you 100. It just does. And I'll tell you that I don't think that he's going to be particularly high owned, because quite honestly, there are better options, but he's still a good one, so do not dismiss how good of a play this is at minus 120 inside the distance. Now, he also does have the possibility of having some wrestling upside. So when you combine a minus 120 inside the distance and a plus 200 first round and takedown upside, I mean, this is a very, very strong favorite. And you'll see that when we go through these, you'll find other guys that you'll like more, but how much more? And you're going to see Max Holloway at 8,800, who is going to be 45% owned, compared to Fernandez, who is going to be, 20-ish, and that's because the median of Holloway is going to be obviously much higher. But in his wins, I mean, Fernandez can score just as much, if not more, than Holloway. So I definitely like him a lot. Bellato on the other side, the way I analyze these underdogs is, unless they really have a lot going for them individually, I only really want to take them if they're affording me a lot of leverage against a good-looking favorite. So Luke is okay looking, but he's not great. So if I'm not going to play Bellato simply for leverage, so I have to analyze him in terms of his abilities. So Bellato inside the distance, he better be plus 300 or better, really, for me to want to play him. And you look at this, it says Bellato inside is going to be what? Bellato inside the distance looks like, and not bad, plus 330. So he's one of these guys that, I mean, in 20 max or lower, I'm not going to play, but if I get to him in 150s, I'm certainly going to be all right with it. But it's certainly not a priority play. He certainly doesn't have too much wrestling upside. He's just kind of a very, he's got good cardio, good scrappy fighter. I'm sure he can get a third round KO, or maybe even earlier, and be competitive with the optimal. But the metrics are certainly not great. How about that? Okay, next one, Young Lee versus Gaston Bolanos. So we'll look at the prices here. You have Lee at 9,300. This is a tough price tag, because you have a lot of upside on this card, and at 9,300 you're going to need at least not only a minus 110 inside the distance line, but you're going to need takedown upside. But I'll tell you, I think he has it. I mean, he does have takedown abilities. He had 2 takedowns a couple of fighters ago against Blake Builder. And what's his name? Bolanos is not the greatest with his takedown defense. I don't know. I mean, 9,300 is such a tough price tag when you have these inside the distance lines. But let's look at him for a second. I think his inside the distance line is it minus 110? I mean, if it is, then never mind, but I didn't think it was. Yeah, look at this, actually. It's basically a pick 'em. So he's not as good of a play as Fernandez because Fernandez is a better inside the distance line at 8,900. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe he's just a fade. I mean, I was going into this card thinking he's going to be like playable, but again, and I hate to cop out like this, but that's the way it goes. When I run my sims or whatever, if I get to him, great. But if I'm going to just say who good plays are here and 20 max and hand builds, I just can't get to this. There's just too many better options around the same price tag. And Bolanos, again, because I don't think Lee's going to be particularly high owned, you're not going to get any real leverage out of him. And his inside the distance line in of itself is no good. And he has very little takedown upside. So I think that this fight is probably close to a fade. Okay, Rafael Tobias versus DR Nurgazay. Now, Nurgazay has been just an incredible disappointment. He came into the UFC with a ton of hype, and he's just shown nothing, And I think this is like the fight where he gets roasted and just sent on his way, I guess. And Tobias's inside the distance line is probably extremely strong. Let me see. I mean, his inside the distance line is minus 120, and he's got an incredible amount of takedown upside. Plus, Nurgazay is really, really bad, like on the mat. So Tobias is like elite here. This is an extremely strong play. So Tobias, Fernandez, these are other reasons why you don't really want to play Jung Young Lee here. These are two extraordinarily strong plays to get your day going. Now, Nurgazay, again, I think that if we're going to play him, I think that Tobias is actually going to be popular enough where you could play Nurgazay just for leverage. So when you want to play a guy just for leverage, you have to just at least have him be decent, and he is. His inside the distance line at plus 300. That's totally reasonable, considering that his opponent is going to be somewhat owned. So I do think that Nurgazay is a pretty decent underdog to get even in 20 back. So I think you probably want to play both sides of this. But Tobias obviously is surely the better side. Okay. Jesus Aguiar versus Sue Sumadarji. The majority of the upside here is actually going to be on the Aguiar side. If you look at this, you have Sumadarji 9,100, Aguiar 7,100. And again, these are our metrics. For a $9,100 fighter, you're really going to need a minus 110 or a lot of takedown upside, and you'll see that Sumadarji is just a very, very poor inside distance, plus 260, and he's not a takedown guy. If anybody's going to get the takedowns here, it's going to be Aguiar. Boy, this inside the distance line is really poor, though. And strangely, I do think Aguiar is probably going to take a little money. I'm hearing a lot of talk about his guillotine and how he's got a lot of upside here. He might end up being overowned. So I don't know if I'm going to actually be able to get to him. You do have to respect the metrics to some degree. And unless you told me for sure that he was going to go for takedowns, he could be. Let's look at his actual results. He's had some guillotines, but I guess 2 takedowns here, 1 takedown here. I guess I'll try. But it feels like it could be one of those popular dogs that you're just supposed to fade. Now, are you supposed to fade him by going straight up and playing Sumadarji? I don't think so. I don't think Aguiar is going to be that high owned that you got to do that. But I think making a tactical fade here might actually be a good idea. Because I think he is going to be high on the higher own side, maybe 15, 16%. And his metrics really are not great. So I'm probably going to be under on both these guys. Okay, so here is the first of is the main one. There are a couple of car crashes here, or potential car crashes, and by car crash I just mean fights that are just going to finish, or they're going to be very active, and you have pricing that will reward you. You have this mid-range pricing where whoever wins this fight is probably going to be in the optimal. So you're going to need to consider playing these. And And this is one of them. You have Cody Durden, who always brings the heat, always puts on a good performance, and Tumen Dembarel, who also is very, very aggressive. I mean, both these guys have takedown upside. They both have KO upside. I mean, we look at the inside the distance line of both of these guys, and I'm sure they're both around plus 250. Let's see. Maybe even better than that. Tumen Dembarel is actually closer to plus 170. And Dern's a little worse because he's a little cheaper. I mean, he's a little less likely to win. Also think, though, that again, Dern is probably going to take money here. And how good is this? I mean, like plus 260. I mean, like plus 260 is good, but it's not like amazing. Is he really going to get a bunch of takedowns? I mean, he can, but you'll see that it's been a while since he did this. So he had the 11 takedowns against Charles Johnson. These other fights here, I mean, when Bekoff, he couldn't get anything going. Silva, he really couldn't get anything going. Schnell, he got the sub without getting the takedown. Joshua Van, he did get 2 takedowns on him. Yeah, I guess. And then we'll look at Tumen Dembarel. I mean, he only had the one reversal here, but he's got some takedowns in his arsenal. So I think that this fight is a very, very important fight. I think that this price range is very important to get to. And I think that their metrics are both very good. I mean, you have the two very active fighters. There are going to be a lot of takedowns, reversals, maybe finishes, and this is a fight you want to target. I will not 100% lock it in or anything like that, but I definitely think you're going to get to it. This other fight's giving me kind of it's kind of a pain in the ass. This Montez Tercios fight, because I've seen like a lot of different versions of Tercios. I've seen the version where he does nothing, like the Sahabi fight, and I've seen the version like in the Heastan fight where he's extraordinarily active, and I've seen even the Navidad fight was like a completely wild fight with a bunch of takedowns and reversals. And even in this Rosas fight where he ended up getting owned, he was very active in the first round. This Sopaj fight, I mean, he did get a takedown, 78 significant strikes in a loss. So it depends on which guy you get. You know what I mean? Like it's been a while now since he's fought. So if you're getting a Tercios that doesn't give an F and is going to come out blazing, I mean, you could get a result out of this fight. I mean, Montez has done nothing. I mean, like in the UFC. So we don't really know what he's about. But you look at the inside the distance line, and it's not terrible, right? Montez inside, like plus 180. I mean, I've seen worse for a guy that's going to be low owned. So I think that this fight is kind of sneaky, you know, because we just looked at this Dembarel fight, which is pretty much the same pricing, and everybody's going to be pounding this thing. And I think that again, people are going to want to play the more of the Dobrev Johnson fight than this one. I think this fight's going to get lost. So I like this one actually from a GPP perspective, and I would definitely play both sides. All right, Dante Johnson versus Cody Brundage. This is going to be the most popular favorite on the slate. When I say favorite, I mean I think that. Well, I was about to say that I think that Max Holloway is going to be the highest overall owned guy, but maybe they steam Dante Johnson higher. I don't know. His metrics are really good, but 9,500 is a tough price tag. He's probably a favorite to win in the first round for openers. But let's just first look at his inside the distance. Inside the distance, he is minus, let's see, 350. I mean, obviously, but we don't care about his inside the distance line if he's 9,500 because he's got to get a first round finish for this to work. And in the first round, he's even money, you know, so he's 50-50 to win in the first round. And here's a question. If he wins in the first round, is he optimal? The answer is probably, maybe, somewhere between that. So if he's going to really be 40 to 50% owned, that's no bargain, with his price tag, the fact that he's going to need a first round finish with some style. If he comes out and just runs through Brundage and gets one takedown and a sub and scores 100, that's not good enough. So I think he's fine. I think he's going to show up in good lineups with the underdogs here, but don't go crazy with this play. As far as Brundage, again, I'll play him just for leverage, but the problem here is he just doesn't win often enough. His money line is plus what's 800. That's like only 10%, really, or 12% of the time. And that's not very good. Now, in those 12%, does he make the optimal? Yeah, I would say. And I guess that he's not going to be that much more than 12% owned. So if you get in a GPP Sims perspective and you're running 150, I don't mind playing him, but in 20 max and below, I probably wouldn't. So yeah, I guess that Dante Johnson is fine enough. And in 20 max, you could probably play him. I mean, we'll build a lineup after this to see what we could end up getting. And maybe you are going to be able to get to Dante Johnson. Well, we'll see. Let's put him in here for now. Yeah, I put him in here for now to see what we're going to end up getting. Oh, here's the other car crash I was going to get to. The Ferreira fight. We'll get to that in a minute. All right. Cody Garbrandt versus Long Jiao. If there's anything that's close to a fade, I think it's going to be this fight. It does have a lot of competition in that mid-range, and you look at the metrics, and they're just not good at all. Like Zhao inside the distance is probably plus 250. Let's see. Plus 300 even. I mean, plus 300 at 8,300. It's just not going to be great. I mean, I will say he's going to be low owned, but that's about it. And Garbrandt has been low volume. He hasn't really done much recently. So again, there's just no reason to play this fight. If again, I hate to say this, but we'll run this when we do our lineup construction video. If you put in your metrics and you put in your percent chances of winning and your percent chance of finishing, and you get to either of these guys in other lineups that have chalkier options, I have no problem with it. But we're just trying to identify the best plays here. And I just don't think that either of these guys fit the bill. I mean, I just don't think you should play them in 20 max or anything where you're hand building. Okay, so now we have two potential car crashes in a row. We have Bruno Ferreira and Gregory Rodriguez, and Michael Johnson and Drew Dober. They're both mid-range fights, very similar to the Durden fight, very similar to the Tercios fight. And when we go through these, we have more examples of why this Tercio fight is going to be very, very low owned. So Rodriguez and Ferreira, I mean, they already ran this thing once, and Rodriguez was a big favorite and was doing great, and then Ferreira just slugged him, and Ferreira's got a lot of power, and Rodriguez has kind of a fishy chin, so that's certainly in the offing here. And Rodriguez, he's a very good fighter. He could probably go for grappling here and make his life easier, but his fight IQ is not always the greatest. So, I mean, let's look at the metrics first. I mean, we have Rodriguez inside minus 110. I mean, minus 110 at this price is just too good to pass up. Plus the grappling upside. I mean, and then you have Ferreira inside at plus like 250. I mean, plus 250 at 7,600. I mean, that's pretty good. But let's compare that for a second. So Ferreira at plus 250 inside. Let's take a look. We're adjusting for VIG here. How do we compare that to Durden, for example? So Durden is similar price, right? And Durden inside is plus very similar, plus takedown upside. So I actually think that Durden is probably a better play here than Ferreira. but we are kind of splitting hairs here. But I do think that the addition of the takedown upside for Durden makes him a better play than Ferreira. There are also some weird variations where Ferreira wins and doesn't get optimal. Rodriguez takes him down the whole first round, and then Ferreira gets some flash knockout in the second, getting him 80 points or something. That's not good enough. Where it's hard to imagine Durden getting there without at least 80 points. So yeah, Ferreira's a good play. I don't think it's as good as Durden, but he's certainly he's a good fighter. Excuse me, he's a good fight. He's a good play even in 20 max. Rodriguez, elite. At this price. Okay, now we have Michael Johnson versus Drew Dober. Now the pricing is much more crunched with this one, so you don't need as great of a matchup as far as metrics go, and that's good because this one's going to be a little bit worse than the others. Now it's not that much worse because listen, both these guys can slug, and Drew Dober is always in fights that deliver. Let's take a look at the inside. Let's take a look at the metrics here. It's actually Dober with the better inside the distance line. So Dober is plus 200 and Johnson is plus 230 or plus 260. So they think the Johnson side is pretty weak here. Dober inside is very, very strong. And I'll tell you is that you've heard a lot recently about how bad his chin is. Maybe that keeps his ownership low. I will say this, by the way, that he came off 3 straight losses. And I'll tell you this, going into his last fight, he was in trouble in that fight against Prepolek. I challenge you to watch this. He got there in the third round after there was he had a big cut or something like that. He was in trouble there. I don't know. I think that at the end of the day, this fight could bust. Maybe Dober's just sick of just slinging it around, and maybe he tries to fight a little more circumspect, and this fight goes to a decision, and Johnson just gets kind of an easy decision. That's possible. I think that if you play anybody in this fight, it would be Dober. So we're going to leave him in. I don't think I'll play Johnson here. And moving on, we have just 3 fights left. 3 fights left? Yep. Raul Rosas Jr. versus Rob Font. Now, again, this fight, I don't know why. I've watched a lot of content this week, and even some DFS content. And to me, I'm a little surprised with the way the next 2 fights have been analyzed by the community here. So for me, okay, this is like an easy one. All right, you have Raul Rojas. He's 8,700, right? So at 8,700, what do you need? You need either an inside the distance line of about minus 160 or so, or plus 160 or so, or a ton of takedown upside. Now you look at his inside the distance line, and his inside the distance line is really not good at plus 300. But they say in the Twitter sphere that styles make fights. And I'll tell you, Rosas is going to be going for nothing but takedowns, and Font has just no takedown defense. I see these variations where Rosas gets 10 takedowns here. If anything, from what I've heard, Font has a decent get-up game. And so you know what that means? That means it's 10 takedowns in the good variations of Rosas' wins here. And there are also variations where Rosas just takes him down and subs him in the first round, which is worth 100 plus, So I think Rosas is kind of an elite play here. He's not getting the love that I was expecting. As a matter of fact, I'm getting a lot of this Font business. Like Font will fight him off and much better on the feet or whatever. I just don't exactly get it. And for me to play someone like Font, the only way I can play him is number one, if he has good metrics, and let's just see. inside the distance plus 700. That's no good. Or unless his opponent is going to be really popular, which Rosas won't be. So for me, it's Rosas or nothing here. And I don't think I'd play Font at all. Okay, Kai Barajo versus Renier de Ritter. And again, I don't exactly know why I'm not hearing what I was expecting to hear. But to me, this is like an easy one. Now, before we get into this, I'd like to say that one of my secret little secrets, okay, is the co-main event, unless it's like a 5-rounder, right, is almost always lower owned than it could be, okay? And I don't know exactly why that is. Part of it is the way they card these things usually. You don't get these big car crashes in the main event, right? You get these kind of like good technical fights. In addition to that, people like to get things going. You know, it used to be that the first fight of the night, nobody wanted to take big shots, but people will take shots along the way and they'll save their action for the main. And the co-main just kind of like disappears a little bit. In addition to that, and this is kind of a little sneaky, is I'll get to your question in a second, Drew. The other reason the co-main event gets ignored a little bit in DFS is the way that a lot of content is produced. People they start analyzing from the bottom of the card up, and when people start to pay attention, or even when people start preparing, they're paying attention throughout the course of the thing, and then eventually you lose your attention, and you're like, okay, let's just get to the main event. And I've done this before. You know, I'm like, okay, I'm fading out a little bit. I can't watch anymore. And then over the main event, I'll get back in there. And this co-main event doesn't get analyzed maybe as much as it could. And to me, I mean, this is pretty easy. So you have Barajo against de Ritter, and Barajo, for lack of anything else, has really good fight IQ. And there's no way that he's going to be engaged in grappling here with de Ritter. I mean, his path to victory is keeping this effer on the feet. So at 9,200, there's no way I'm playing this. But what you will play, I will play de Ritter. I mean, how on earth does he win and not score? Okay? Is he going to win? Yeah. You know how often he's going to win? About 33% of the time, right? Because it's a 2-1 underdog. But in his wins, how does he not get there? He's an incredible grappler. He's also very aggressive on the feet. And he's 7K. So for me, I think he's like, I'll put you another way. I don't think he's going to be any lower owned or any higher owned than, say, Aguiar, for example. I mean, I don't know. I think that de Ritter is like a very, very strong underdog play here. I mean, not to mention he's got a lot of negative bias because of that horrible cardio dump he had against Brandon Allen. But whatever. I mean, it's been a while since then, and he's gotten his act together apparently. I don't know. I think you got to play him. And then in the main event, I kind of alluded to this before, but yeah, it's tough to fade this. I mean, all Oliveira does is finish people when he wins, and he's 7,400. And Holloway just puts up just tons and tons of volume. So he either is going to get these are his scores. And let's look at these. 122 in a decision, 122 in the late KO. 96, that's not so great. 90, that's not so great either, maybe. 153, yikes. 200 in a decision. Can you imagine? Can you imagine 200 fantasy points in a decision? Now, this one isn't so great, though. 82 against Edgar. 164. So he's got a ceiling, okay? But you know what else he's going to have? He's going to have 45% ownership. I think he's going to be 45. I think Oliveira's going to have 40, and I think that Oliveira is more likely to make the optimal when he wins. I guess that's fair. I'm glad that you're coming with this question, James, right now, because the question is, do you ever stack the main event at large field GPPs? The short answer is no, but not because I don't on purpose, just because I just don't get there. I will say that, yeah, I don't think that this is the fight to do it. The way you do it is on a fight that's going to go 5 rounds with both fighters putting up numbers. And I just don't see the variations where it goes 5, really, and Oliveira scores a lot. You know what I mean? I don't know. I just really don't even see the variations where Oliveira, wins and doesn't finish. I mean, the more I even think about it, I mean, how does this even go to the distance? I mean, Oliveira's not, I don't know about any of this. Let me take a look at Oliveira's record here for a second. Actually, he did get a 5-round decision against Chandler, getting a bunch of takedowns. But if he's going to do that, then Holloway's not going to get enough volume. So that's the thing. So yeah, I would not stack this main event. Do you have a spreadsheet where you input projected ownership and then extract it? Yes, I do. But I do it for my own benefit. I mean, I don't really, and I do post it in, where do I post the results? Somewhere. My ownership projections have been really, really good recently. I don't want to curse it. And that's what I've been doing. I've been putting my own ownership projections and creating my own fields and just kind of running the stuff and then doing some using the Pater portfolio manager and my own kind of anti-dupe stuff to kind of balance that out a little bit. And again, I'd love to show you that. So I'd love to do a video, hopefully later tonight, where I do it. It's just a tough weekend for me because I'm going into the city really from like 10 to 4 tomorrow. So I have to get my stuff in before I leave. We'll see. We'll see if I can do it. I guess that's pretty much it. Lots of ways to go. And I do think that it's going to be a high-scoring slate, if that matters. And again, look for other videos from me on this in the next couple of days, hopefully. Good luck, everybody.